You are now listening to The Spearsy Spin with your host, Mike Spears.
Hi folks, and welcome to The Spearsy Spin, and we have stuff to go over today. A very interesting list of items. First thing we're going to be talking about today is Bankruptcy 2017, issues and problems, and as a special treat, we're going to be talking to a banker. His name is George Bailey, and he's from the Bailey Building and Loan in Bedford Falls, Pennsylvania. Get his thoughts on the 2017 bankruptcy program. Now, coal is back, and that's good news for a lot of people, especially those folks in West Virginia who had lost their jobs because of the mountains of red tape. And, of course, you know, as soon as these folks get going, we're going to hear from the EPA and all this, and we do need to take a look at that, but we have to do it respectfully of jobs. It's now 2017, and in 2017 we're wondering, are we going to see the multitude of bankruptcies that we've seen in 2008 and 2009? So when we talk about bankruptcies, when we go through 2008, 2009, 2010, we know that things were not really good. But why we're looking at bankruptcy is because we are in a very tumultuous time right now. And the reason I say that is if we take a look at the housing market, and a lot of folks, I don't think about this, but if you take a look at bankruptcy today in 2017, and the reason for that is because a lot of things have changed. And the average Joe on the street, I don't think they take this in consideration. But listen to me a bit here. Baby boomers right now continue to be the number one age group here in the United States. So when you have that many older people, they typically have already bought their house, they've already bought their car, they're probably not going to build a new house, they're probably not going to buy a larger house. So what happens? Well, typically what happens, older people, they've retired, and eventually they want to downsize. The kids are gone, the dog is gone, and whoever else might have been there, they're probably gone. So we have just mom and dad, and they're 65, whatever they might be, and they're moving into smaller quarters. And you have to keep in mind that the baby boomers right now are a huge part of the total population of the United States. That means that more and more and more of these houses are going to be coming up for sale. It's just the way it is. The problem is the great big houses that these folks had, and I'm kind of guilty of that myself. The younger generation, they really don't want the Victorian home or the large farmhouse. They don't want a big colonial. So what do they want? Well, they want the smaller houses. They're easier to heat, easier to maintain. They don't tend to eat at the table that much, so they really don't even care about a kitchen. And that's really true. So what's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a housing glut. Actually, there is. We just got done talking about this out of Elmira, New York, where they have many, many, many homes that just can't be sold. But these are going to come onto the market, and they're going to stagnate. And we're already seeing that in different markets in the state of New York, as well as I understand in Connecticut and New Jersey. I think in 2017, we're going to have far less bankruptcies than we've seen in 2008, 9, and 10, when some of these hit 1 million. But here's what I'm thinking. Last year, 2016, in Chapter 7, there was 509,000 filings. Now, Chapter 11, which is for basically major corporations, there was almost 8,000. Chapter 12, typically they're for farmers for the most part, 459. And Chapter 13, which is basically reorganization for small businesses and for individuals trying to get some things worked out. And as we look at 2015 and 2014, they pretty much are neck and neck. A little bit more in 2014, a lot more apparently in 2013, as far as the Chapter 13s go at least. But by and large, when we look at 2012, the bankruptcies in the country are extremely, extremely high, but again, not as high as 2008, 2009. So what does that mean? Well, that means when you're going out to look at houses, maybe it's time to start thinking about those bigger houses, because right now and within the next year and 2 years, again, these are going to be coming up on the market as the older folks are moving to smaller quarters, give you an opportunity to get one heck of a deal.
To the Ayatollahs of Iran and every terrorist you enable, listen up. You might have met our fresh-faced flower child president and his weak-kneed Ivy League friends, but you haven't met America. You haven't met the heartland, where the people will defend this nation with their bloody, calloused, bare hands, if that's what it takes. You haven't met the steel workers and the hard rock miners or the swamp folks in Cajun country who can wrestle a full-grown gator out of the water. You haven't met the farmers, the cowboys, the loggers, and the truck drivers. You don't know the mountain men who live off the land or the brave cops who fight the good fight in the urban war zones. No, you've never met America. And you ought to pray you never do. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
Don't miss even one show. Subscribe to the Spearsy Spin now.
Alrighty, and we're back, and what a catchy little tune. While everybody was off on the break, I dialed the phone, and we are now online with Mr. George Bailey. Now, Mr. George Bailey runs the Bailey Building and Loan, and that's in Bedford Falls, Pennsylvania. And we're going to be talking with him a little bit about bankruptcy and what it means to him. And we'll have a regular conversation here. So, George, how you doing? We haven't talked for quite a while, and I know you've got a lot to tell me about the bankruptcy. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's good to hear from you, Mike. It's been a while. We're down here, and we've been here for years, since 1946. Yeah. The bankruptcy thing, I don't know. 2008 and 9, it was pretty bad. A lot of bankruptcies, a lot of folks got hurt, you know. But somehow through all that, we've managed to stay afloat and keep the doors open. You know.
Well, that's good. And let me ask you, how's your wife Mary?
Mary? She's fine. She's been fixing the house up, and we're doing all that, and she's been working outside quite a bit. You ought to come see it. Looking good, you know.
The last I knew, Zuzu was running around stuffing plants or something in her pockets, green vegetable, whatever it was. I remember she, yeah.
Well, Zuzu's always picking off rose petals, Mike. You remember we had the big garage there, and then behind it we had the flowers. Wife's always growing flowers.
Now, Uncle Billy, is Uncle Billy still with you down there?
Yeah, Uncle Billy's here. He's still doing good. He runs the place when I'm not there. Or runs over and he argues with Mr. Potter over there at Potter's place. He's doing all right.
And how's your mom, Mrs. Bailey?
Oh, Mom, she's doing just fine. Just fine. She's baking a lot. I put on an extra 20 pounds between her and Mary, but I ask about you from time to time, and I tell her when I hear from you.
Well, someone had mentioned the bank examiner was down there.
Yeah, he come last Christmas Eve. I had to do a
he's from
inspection,
Elmira.
and so I was here for that. And then he was gonna head back to Elmira.
Well, your brother Harry. Now I remember he was in the Army Airborne. How's he doing? Is he doing all right?
Oh yeah, Harry. Well, he's fine. Been doing a lot of flying, training on these new jets. It's a big change from 1946 to 2017, and Harry's been learning on them. I had him over to the Middle East.
You still have Bert the cop there.
Oh, Bert, yeah. Oh, sure, Bert's around. He's still doing police work by doing a good job too.
And Bedford Falls, I don't think Bedford Falls would be the same without Mr. Potter. How you getting along with that old goat?
I try to ignore him. Last Christmas Eve, I was going down the street, get out for a walk and get ready to have supper with Mary and the kids. I went by Potter's place there, and he was sitting there counting his money, like he always does. I just tapped on the window. I said, "Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter." He didn't even say anything.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts about bankruptcy in 2017, and maybe give me your thoughts on President Trump? Because I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, it's difficult to say because I was raised a Democrat, of course, as my father, but we've had just a kind of a rough time with the other president going out. I don't know. I like to think that President Obama did try to do a good job. But I think Trump, he's gonna probably bring some new jobs, new blood. I kind of think that's where we're gonna need to be, Mike. I don't know. The building and loan that's not what it used to be, but we've been here so long, and we're kind of like a fixture. But I think Trump will be all right. I think he'll probably bring in some jobs, and I think there's got to give him a chance, and too many people get too excited, I think, and so they just need to calm down a bit.
Well, hey, George, it's been great talking with you. Now, I almost forgot. Have you seen anything of Clarence?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Clarence and I were just fishing there.
All right.
Off the bridge. I remember the bridge there I jumped off from in 1946. And Clarence, of course, he was there and rescued me. Well, he's good like that. He asked about you not long ago. You should come down. We'll go to the bridge and we'll do some fishing right there off the bridge. I'll have Bert shut her down so that you don't have to worry about cars or anything. We'll have a good time.
Okay. Well, George, yep, good talking with you. Take care of yourself, and we'll be talking again, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, it's good talking with you, Mike. You're just gonna have to get down here and spend some time with us. And
all right. Bye, George.
Well, I'll let you go. Hey, Mary listens. Well, Mary and my mother, both listen to your show, the Spin or whatever. I don't get a chance. I just don't. But they seem to like it. So I'll tell them to make sure they listen for this show with me on it. For that, but Yeah, good deal. I should get Reagan off the show, though. We did a movie together. Well, that's another story. Look, all right, Mike. I'll hang up. Goodbye.
Wow, that guy can talk, can he? Talk and talk and talk and talk. But it was good talking with George, and glad to hear that he's doing good.
You critics don't define our honor. You try to shame us for doing our job. You teach children to fear us, crowds to attack us, and good people to doubt us. But we will never back down from our sworn duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We wake up every day, put on our badge, strap a gun to our hips, kiss our families goodbye, and put our lives between the law-abiding and any criminal who threatens their rights. We serve people of every color and creed, men, women, and children in violent, dangerous neighborhoods, because they have the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as CEOs, movie stars, and the political elite. We are Americans, and we are the American police officer. We stand with the National Rifle Association of America, and the NRA stands with us. Together, we're freedom's safest place.
Hello, this is Captain Jack Sparrow. See, you've already met this dastardly scoundrel who calls himself Mike Spears. That would mean that you're listening to the Spearsy Spin. Right. By my reckoning, if you give a thumbs up and subscribe, this would make you one of the crew. Savvy?
Wow, we are back. It's good to be back. Thinking about planning my vacation. I think I'll head to Bedford Falls. Well, you know, the coal industry is a lot happier than it has been now that President Trump has removed some of the tons and tons of restrictions that have been on coal. The coal folks, especially there in the West Virginia area, they've actually just about been beside themselves or starving, and because that's their main source of income. So I'm glad that's back, and I know that there'll be folks that are going to be excited, wondering about the pollution and so on. Well, a lot of this coal isn't even staying here, number one, but number two, I think more and more countries are becoming, compliant with, we have to do something to keep the air clean, to keep the water clean. It's just stupid if you don't. But the production of coal reached its peak in 2008, but then President Obama came into office and he said, well, hey, we got a whole bunch of new regulations, I'll bet you. And they were designed to protect America's streams and waterways from the pollution that the mines emit. Now, there is some slag and what have you not that if it becomes waterborne, it could get into the streams. But there's opportunities there as well. I don't know what all they can use it for, but they tell me they can use it for other things. So the residual after they get their coal out. So those regulations, they just totally crippled, the industry. And, there went a bunch of well-paying jobs. I mean, just gone. And a lot of those folks, their livelihood depended on the industry. It's kind of, I think that's what gave them hope, is that President Trump said, hey, we're going to get you back in business. So now with the EPA regulations being rolled back a bit, I think that's every job in America is a job that we need, and that's certainly the way that's headed. Right now we got to dig up Ronald Reagan here, so to speak, dig him up out of the archives here, And let's see. Yes. They tell me I'm reading a screen in case you're wondering, and all these wonderful things are on it. So they're gonna dig up the archive in the computer, and we're going to listen to Ronald Reagan. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the most worthless people in the world.
An American dog and a Polish dog and a Russian dog. They were all having a visit, and the American dog was telling them about how things were in this country. He said, you bark, and you bark long enough, and then somebody comes along and gives you some meat. And the Polish dog said, "What's meat?" The Russian dog says, "What's bark?" The story of a fellow who was running for office as a Republican, and he was in a rural area and it wasn't known to be Republican, and he stopped by a farm to do some campaigning. And when the farmer heard he was a Republican, his jaw dropped and he said, "Wait right here till I go get Ma. She's never seen a Republican before." So he got her, and the candidate looked around for a podium from which to give his speech, and the only thing he could find was a pile of that stuff that Bess Truman took 35 years trying to get Harry to call fertilizer. So he got up on the mound, and when they came back, he gave his speech. And at the end of it, the farmer said, "That's the first time I ever heard a Republican speech." And the candidate said, "That's the first time I've ever given a Republican speech from a Democratic platform."
And finally, I want to talk about... It's even difficult for me to talk about this, and I have an extreme vocabulary. All right, maybe just a good vocabulary. Okay, I can just talk, but this just, well, here it is. There's a gentleman, and I use that term extremely loosely, and this person decided that he would send a tweet out the other night. This is from the president's address to Congress, and in his tweet, which we'll get to in just a second here, he said some very discouraging and in my opinion, I can't even get the exact words I want, but it's that bad. Basically, here's the deal. Sadly, we lost a naval SEAL here in the last little bit, and at the president's address to Congress, the president had asked the wife of Mr. Owens, who was killed in a counterterrorism raid in Yemen, to be there. Her name is Carryn, by the way. And so the president, and you're going to hear the clip, courtesy of Fox News, in a minute, but the president took a minute to talk about Ryan Owens, and to let the folks know what heroes are, what they do, and what they give, and especially a Navy SEAL. And his wife was in the audience, and she's already, upset, and she's crying, of course, and folks are trying to, kind of make her feel better, and because we don't want to see her cry, and it's a very bad time. I mean, just lost her husband. And so while that's going on, the gentleman we're talking about, his name is Dan Grillo. I guess that's how you say that. And this is what he tweeted out. He said, "Sorry, Owen's wife, you're not helping yourself or your husband's memory by standing there and clapping like an idiot. Trump just used you." Well, since this has come up here on the screen, and we've been looking at it here for the last couple hours, I have a lot of military in my family. A lot of folks who listen to the show, they know me, and whether it's on Twitter, Google, whatever, I don't know, it doesn't matter. And I have an adopted family, and many of you know that. And in my adopted family, I have a ton of military. My adopted brother has 28 years in the United States Marine Corps, 3 tours, Nam. Now, also, my other brother, who's now gone, adopted, he was a chopper pilot, flew Hueys in Vietnam. And then I have a third VA, because the VA does, I don't even want to get into the VA, but anyway, when you do this and you work with veterans, and you can speak that language, and you understand, and you hear things that you would never imagine, gut-wrenching feelings, gut-wrenching fear that our service people do all the time in the worst places in the world to make sure that the nation stays safe. And for the last 8 years, these folks have been getting a bum rap. Well, this guy who did that tweet was a Hillary Clinton volunteer, and he also volunteered on the Obama campaigns. How do you address it? I can address this, I guess. I mean, I could complain and go on and on. Here's the real issue. The real issue is that this person, in my opinion, has some inner issues. My guess would be his father. That would be my guess. I don't know, but that's my opinion. So my advice to Dan Grillo is to now take this time that you've been fired from your job, because even the company you work for wouldn't tolerate this. And even though you're on your own time, they fired you. And there's a reason they fired you, because what you did was past insensitive. It was past just stupidity. Of all the things I've heard, and I've heard a lot of things from a lot of people across the desk in my time, this was like the biggest wound. I mean, this woman is crying her eyes out. Her husband's dead. She has her hands raised to the heavens, saying to her deceased husband up there, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you turn around and tweet something like this. This won't stand. And I don't know if you go out drinking or whatever, but if you do and you're in a bar, you want to look around. Because if there's service people there, especially if they have hash marks, and some of them have hash marks to their ankles, so to speak, you really need to think where you want to drink. Because there's some good old boys out there that just leave a damn good leaving alone, and that's a fact. Here's the clip coming up from Fox News, courtesy of Fox News. And this is the President of the United States talking about the Navy SEAL that we lost, William Ryan Owens, again killed in that counterterrorism raid in Yemen last month. Give a listen.
Ryan died as he lived, a warrior and a hero, battling against terrorism and securing our nation.
Absolutely. One of the most powerful moments of the president's congressional address, a near 2-minute standing ovation for the widow of Navy SEAL Ryan Owens. A tearful Carryn Owens looking up toward the heavens, mouthing, I love you, to her late husband. Jackie Vanya is here now with the emotional tribute. Jackie, I don't know how anyone could not get tears in their eyes.
I know, right? It was such a beautiful moment. Well, it was the longest applause of the night. President Trump creating a memorable, heartfelt moment of recognition for Carryn Owens. Carryn Owens, that is, the widow of fallen Navy SEAL Ryan Owens. Now, the senior chief's death in the Yemen raid last month was the first military casualty of the Trump administration. A mission the president insists was successful.
I just spoke to our great General Mattis just now, who reconfirmed that, and I quote, Ryan was a part of a highly successful raid that generated large amounts of vital intelligence that will lead to many more victories in the future against our enemy.
Now, the touching moment bringing the chamber to their feet in the longest applause of the evening. Mrs. Owens, overcome with emotion, you see her right there, rose to acknowledge the lengthy standing ovation, looking to the heavens at times, mouthing, I love you to her late husband. A striking image that we won't forget.
I've watched about 40 of these over the years, addresses to joint sessions. The most emotional moment I've ever seen was Ryan Owen's widow standing there receiving the plaudits for her husband and his service and reacting as she did. There are not many unforgettable moments in State of the Union or State of the Union style addresses. This was certainly one that we'll all remember for a long time.
And President Trump going on to say the nation will never forget Chief Owen's sacrifice, his legacy now etched into eternity. Clayton and Heather.
All right, thanks, Jackie.
We all send our prayers, our thoughts to the Owens family, and all I can say is it's sad enough that happened, but then to have this idiot do what he did, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow on a brighter note. Take care. Remember, there's only one world. We all have to try and live in it. Even the dummy that sent the tweet out. See you tomorrow.